How do you feel about the transition to ebooks? And if Oscar Wilde read Oscar Wilde, do you think he'd actually read it in a book nowadays? Or?
What do I think about the transition of ebooks? You know, the question of medium is always difficult. I fault no one how you want to read your books. For me, the question, the bottom line question is, every time we have a transition to a new medium, the artist always gets screwed. The transition to the medium is a way to restructure the artistic contract so that we're left with less. And for all the kind of claims that they trot out, people in Amazon who are like, oh, I sold my ebooks and I made $1 million. The reality is that artists are finding it more and more difficult to live. And so I don't mind ebooks at all. I don't think there's any problem. You know, you can read books off the back of a mammoth if you want. You know what I'm saying? You want to like read any way you want it. But again, my question always is why is the already precarious, difficult life of artists being made more precarious and difficult by corporations that reap the kind of profits that are on the level of countries? Yeah? I mean, listen, Marvel Comics, let's just think about Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics makes so much damn money. And Marvel Comics literally pays its non-star writers, the people who make the bulk of the comics and the bulk of the drawings, they pay them almost a minimum wage. There's something incredibly wrong about this. And they try to distract us with having a star or two who lives very, very well off their work to hide the fact that there is an enormous amount of economic violence being directed at all of us, but certainly those of us who are most vulnerable, and artists are among that. So I got no problems with it. I just keep wondering why this sort of amazing revolution that's supposed to benefit the artist has in fact not produced that, and it's making these companies richer, and it's making the majority of artists poorer. You know? So, we're still in the struggle, but I read Moby Dick off this. I'm not kidding, this is my third time reading Moby Dick, and I read it off this because it's like totally ill. It's like, I have like the strongest thumb from just, yeah, I'm not even kidding. I said, we gotta go here to this side. What do we got? Right there, madame. So, the question was, do we have to wait another 16 years for you to write a book? I think the motivation, the motivation and the sentiment behind that question is very touching. I appreciate it. I mean, I think the problem with me is that there seems to be something. I just work on I'm on a different planet. I'm on a different planet. You know, I keep thinking that if the books survive, no one will notice the gaps. Do you know what I mean? Like when I'm long dead, they'll be like, oh, 3 books by some dude with a Z in his name. You know? And they won't notice, but yes, certainly watching me, if you're waiting, if you're actually one of the 3 people who wait around for me to write a book, I mean, you have better luck waiting for real democracy. You know? It's going to be just as long. And we have one more. Wait, somebody just whistled at me? Who was this? Is you?
Where do I live and where do I call home? Where does my heart seek to live? I live in New York City most of the time. I live there 8 months out of the year. You can't hear me, damn you!
Where do I live? Where does my heart seek a home, basically, yeah? I live primarily in New York City, in the Dominican community uptown, and I visit New Jersey probably once a week, and I go back to the Dominican Republic 3 times a year, and all of these places simultaneously feel like home to me, yeah? Now, there was a person right up front who had a question. I was afraid you were whistling. Speak to me, young person. Wait, did I miss the second part of your question, sir? Where's your heart? And where's my heart? Ah, yeah. That's actually a very, very good question. Yeah, I sometimes wonder about that. I sometimes wonder if part of what I do as an artist is kind of like, it's kind of the Tin Man process, where I think a part of me keeps trying to fashion a heart out of my books. Yeah, there's some terrible longing in me, and I keep writing these books thinking this will be the heart that will, keep me alive and propel me, and then I think, okay, that didn't work, and I'll try the next one. And I wonder about that sometimes, and I think that's as close as I have to an answer. It was a very nice question, though. And I'm just going to take this young person's here, and we're done. How has my teaching influenced my writing? How old are you? How old? 19. 19. Wow, thank you for coming out, young person. Yeah, I'm not so sure my teaching does much for my writing. Yeah, because I like to teach. I feel it's more about my sort of sense of civic responsibility. We all have to do something to give back to the society. It bears repetition again and again. There's not one of us here, whether you're the poorest person or the richest person, who doesn't take more out of this society than they put back in. And that's what civic engagement is. Civic engagement is an attempt to make up the difference between what we take out and what we give. Yeah? We all supposed to be civically engaged, but we no longer have any sense of citizenship, really, in this country. We have mostly a sense of partisanship, and it's damaged us profoundly. I always felt that my teaching was a way that I sort of gave back to my community. And I don't know what secret subterranean process, how that connects to my writing. I think my writing comes so out of my reading. And the one thing I know about my teaching is that my teaching subtracts 80 books a year from my reading. No, there's no question. That was not a joke. It's like, at least I lose 80 books a year. Because when you teach, it's hard to read. And so a part of me always thinks that if I win Powerball tomorrow, I might consider not teaching just so that I can read, But again, it's such a mystery, because what does teaching do to us? Teaching is a wonderful way, if you can avoid turning bitter, it's a wonderful way to be in contact with humility. It's a wonderful way to be reminded that we live in a society that is so undervalues that foundational practice, Do you ever see It's a Wonderful Life? It's a Wonderful Life has this moment when I was a kid, and I was deeply touched by this, because I was an immigrant kid, and my teachers had to teach me not only the most basic stuff that all kids are taught, but they had to teach me to live in a new world and to speak a new language. And I'll never forget that moment when he runs into the bar, and the Jimmy Stewart character is kind of causing a ruckus, and he kind of intrudes or steps on and kind of offends this one guy, and this guy goes, "My wife taught your children how to read." And this sense that his wife does this important, valuable thing, and that he's not being respected for it. And so, I don't know, I think that there's something in that. There's something in that, of how this links to me. I think there's something very human about teaching. And there's something very human about helping someone to join what we call our collective common experiment. And, we don't value it enough. And I don't know if it affects my writing as much as it affects my humanity, which in turn affects my writing. But it's something I don't know even if I won a lottery, that I would do without. Yeah? You have all been very kind and very patient. Thank you.